Here we go. We're going to talk about niches. Now, interestingly enough, when I first started working with family caregivers, and in many ways, that was a niche that was good enough. In marketing, you'll hear regularly that you want to get as specific about the clients you're working with as possible. That becomes your niche. When I started, the niche of family caregivers felt very specialized, and I did a lot of educating around who is a family caregiver. Now you can get much more specific about who you work with. And you might think, but I want to work with all family caregivers. And you definitely can. The niche just helps you be more focused on who you want to work with. My niece is my editor for my books, and she challenges me all the time, which sometimes I think, oh, I don't have the energy to be challenged. And then other times I think, oh, this is awesome. She challenges me. I often just think, I wish she would just say, that is awesome, Aunt Denise, just keep it as it is. But she never does. And so it always gets better, which is always a painful process to get better. And we can all commit to that. When I released the latest edition of the book I wrote about the 6 caregiving stages, she really challenged me to describe my reader. And again, in the past, my reader was always anyone in a caregiving situation. And she challenged me to be more specific about it. So when she challenged me, and oh, I don't want to be challenged. But then I was like, okay, I accept the challenge. It really became helpful because then I described the reader of that book as someone who's a deep thinker and a deep feeler about their caregiving experience. And when I did that, I thought, wow, it changed the description I wrote about the book. It changes how I talk about the book. And I developed this description of a deep thinker and a deep feeler because I describe myself as someone who thinks a lot and who feels a lot. So in essence, I wrote a book for someone like myself. And that was really helpful. Not everyone is going to find value in that book. I wish everybody would, but the truth is, not everybody will. And when I got specific about it, it also helped me understand that if someone reviews the book and they don't like it, it simply was because they are not the reader for the book. And then I didn't personalize it. I don't worry about it. It just wasn't the book for them, and that's okay. I used to do a podcast with other writers of caregiving books, and I connected with another author who I was not familiar with. So it was really interesting to have a conversation with her. And I asked her how she manages reviews. It's hard to be reviewed. It is. And what she said was so helpful for me to remember. If she gets a 1-star review, it only means that her marketing efforts have expanded beyond her initial loyal group of readers. And it means to her that she is successful in her marketing efforts. The 1 star isn't about the book she's written. It's a reflection of the reach she's making, and that's success for her. Oftentimes, reviews of books are from a loyal group of the author. And that's great. And if you, right, thank you, Lauren. I know, I was so happy I interviewed that author because I was like, thank you for that. Thank you for that. If you are getting reviews from people that you think, oh, they didn't like it, it means that you are reaching beyond your small group. You are effective in your marketing. We talked about, I think it was people who we're going to categorize as haters in our advocacy training on Thursday afternoon. And I shared about someone who does a lot of marketing to help coaches, for instance, launch a course or a program, James Wetmore, and he has free workshops every year that he uses for enrollment into his course. I posted about it. If you're a CCC, I posted about his upcoming workshop in our CCC group. You can look for that. And if you're interested in learning more about him, his name is James Wedmore, Wedmore. And in one of his courses, he talks about our ability to feel success and reach success is based on our tolerance for people who don't like our work. If you have a great tolerance for people who don't like your work, you then take your work out into the world without worrying about who doesn't like your work. If you are worried that people won't like your work, you have a tendency to keep it in too much. Oh, people aren't going to like this. If you put it out there because you are confident you're going to reach the people who are going to love it, which means you tolerate the people who just it didn't resonate, then you put your work out into the world in a much more courageous, confident way. If someone doesn't like your work, it means you are doing a great job getting your work out into the world. Okay, let's do some 6-word writing. I love to write 6-word stories. We're going to start with a 6-word story about yourself. And here's how we're going to start. I'm going to give you the first 2 words. I am.
I got a chat message today.
Okay. Thanks, Beth. Thanks for being here. Start with I am, and then fill in the blank. With 6-word stories, you can use as many hyphens as you'd like. So for instance, if you fill in the blank after I am, and you use hyphens with 10 words, but it turns into 4 statements because of the hyphens, that works. So think about how you would describe yourself, starting with I am, and then filling in the blank. So you have something like a 6-word story.
I got a chat message today.
Okay, thanks, Beth. And you are welcome to start writing your stories and sharing them in the chat room. I got your message, Beth. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I can see you guys working. So I could say, if I were thinking about how I would describe myself, is I am productive. Oh, here we go. Ken's got his. I am a grateful, talented, and selfless giver. Whoa. There you are. That's you, Ken. Oh my gosh, Vicky, I love this too. I am diving deep with ideas. Wow. There you go. When we think about a description of ourselves that is as bottom line as a 6-word story, then it can actually give guidance as to how we show up in our day. Lauren is writing, I am courageous, connecting, consistent, and growing. And Beth is writing, I am calm and hope. These descriptions then guide us into how we behave, for instance, during the day. So Lauren, you're courageous, connecting, consistent, and growing. That's how you show up in your day. It's a good guide for us because it can be overwhelming again when we're thinking about being different. showing up in the world differently than we did before. And if we have a guide, then we know how we're showing up in the world. Oh my gosh, I love what you guys are writing. So Joella is writing, I am resilient and strong enough to endure. Marla is writing, I'm continually forging life's journey. Wow. Okay. There was one that I missed. I just want to see if I can move my cursor up. Here we go. I am eager to use retirement successfully, excitingly, adventurously, productivity, meaningfully, and uniquely. Oh my gosh, Corey. Wow. Wow. How powerful. How powerful. Wow. And Marla's got a good question. What can change that will lessen your stress while caregiving? Oh my
I got a
gosh.
chat message today.
Okay, thanks, Beth. So Marla, that's a great question to start your survey. What can change that will lessen your stress while caregiving? Oh, wow. Wow. What can change that can lessen your stress? What a great question. What a great question. We can write a description of ourselves to start the day, again, to give guidance for the day. If there's something particularly challenging that we're going to face that day, we can write a description of how we face that challenge. If we are nervous about something we're going to face during the day, we can actually write a story about how we face that. And Marilyn is writing, I am a motivated. I always struggle with this word, so everybody's going to struggle with me as I say it out loud. Contemplative seeker and great listener. It's a great word, contemplative. That is a great word, contemplative seeker. So you've got a phrase which is really good. Wow. As we get nervous about facing our day, we can write out how we want to face our day, and that can calm our nerves. Now you might think, oh, I want to be the only one in this niche. You actually want others to be in this niche with you because it's going to help. You don't have to connect with everybody within the niche. However, there's a few that you think they're in a similar niche, and wow, what they're doing complements what I'm doing. That could be an interesting collaborative relationship. For instance, all of us that are connecting are in the family caregiving space. Within that space, we can think about, how do I collaborate with others who complement my niche? If, for instance, you decide to launch a podcast that supports working family caregivers, you would look to see who else supports working family caregivers and invite them on your podcast. You may gain insights from them that can be really helpful. You could interview them in a series of blog posts. You could do video chats with them. And then you, in essence, have a tribe. I started going through a public speaking course last year. I finished the course to improve my speeches. And on Thursday, if you were here on Thursday morning, I did staging caregiving,
More
which,
chat message today.
okay, thanks, Beth, which I wanted to do without a PowerPoint or a script. And I challenged myself to do that. Where am I going with this? Okay, so that was that part of the course, which was, for me, on my bucket list. I know this sounds kind of crazy to have this item on your bucket list. For me, a bucket list item was to do workshops and presentations and keynotes without a PowerPoint. So that's what I've been working toward. And that's what I was able to do on Thursday. I followed up that course with another course about the business of speaking. And in that course, they teach you that one of the best referral sources for you is a fellow speaker, and to create a community of speakers that you connect with on a regular basis so you can share opportunities and support and insights. We typically think about other speakers as our competitor. And I just loved this reminder that others that share a similar space are opportunities for us to collaborate and share. So when you think about others in your niche, think about developing a relationship with them. Also, not everybody within your niche is going to be someone you want to develop a relationship with. Our first presentation today was, how am I going to weed my relationship garden? It's the same question you're going to use when you look through and seek out fellow collaborators. Not everybody is going to be the right fit for you. And if it's not the right fit, move on rather than trying to make it the right fit. If it's not the right fit, you're never going to make it into the right fit. And if it's not the right fit, you can move on graciously, because you never know if in the future it becomes a right fit. So you can think about it as, it's not the right fit right now. I'm going to graciously remove myself from this opportunity. And you never know if it presents itself as the right fit. So you don't close any doors or windows. As you are thinking about others within your niche and your space, you also want to be aware of, what's your differentiator in the marketplace? What makes you different? I will tell you, your own personal caregiving experience is one of the biggest differentiators. There is no one else that has had your experience. You are the only one that has had your experience. That's one differentiator right there. And so again, if you are getting stuck with, oh my gosh, everybody's competitive in this space, or I'm competing with so many, know that your personal experience is your differentiator. No one else has your experience. Okay, and kind of sharing another description. I am a humble person that struggles with promoting self, being boastful. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Right. Yes. How do we promote ourselves and remain humble? How do we promote our work and remain humble? That's a great question, Ken. Because I think you always see a self-promoter for who or what they are. And we want to talk about our work without becoming self-promoters. And one of the best ways I think you can do this, remaining humble while talking about your work, is to engage in conversations with others and learn about their work. And then as you learn about their work, you share insights about your work. I think one of our greatest abilities to separate ourselves from the competition is by sharing insights rather than promoting our work. We've all met the person who just constantly talks about their books or their podcasts, but never actually engages in a conversation. And the person that engages in a conversation with you is someone who is doing great work while remaining humble. Humility is actually, I think, a really amazing characteristic to keep, because it keeps us learning. I have often thought I am a constant student of the caregiving experience. I am always learning. I am always learning. Yeah, and Beth CD, Beth, I hope you don't mind if I refer to you as Beth CD. We have a couple Beths joining us today. Beth CD is sharing, when you're in the healthcare space, there's a lot of exclusion if you don't have credentials, right? And we know that's changing. I firmly believe that life experience is going to become the credential. It's going to become the credential.
I got a chat message today.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Your commitment to having a conversation and to learn from others about their experiences is another way you separate yourself from the competition. because so many will just jump into a conversation to talk about their book, their podcast. And when you join a conversation to really have a sharing of insights and experiences, that's a unique experience for people to have. There's ways for us to talk about our work that is not self-promoting and is impactful. Yesterday in our Dementia Care Pilot Program Results workshop, we talked about how I enrolled family caregivers in the pilot program, and I enrolled them through conversation. That's all I did. I enrolled a nurse after I delivered a workshop for discharge planners at a hospital. I had presented a workshop around difficult family dynamics, really drew on my own family experience. And after the workshop, the discharge planner kind of motioned to me, you know, I want to ask you something, but I don't want my coworkers to hear it. So I went over and I said, well, you know, what do you need? I'd love to help. And she said, how can you help me with my own difficult family dynamics? I said, let's talk. And then she shared a little bit more and I said, enroll in our pilot program and I'll help. Have conversations, really commit to conversations. There could be complementary niches. It's not exactly the same as yours, but it complements your niche. So what can you learn from them? And then what's the potential collaboration? A complementary niche could be a coach who helps individuals with their own stress. It's not specific to caregiving. You bring in this insight about the specific stress family caregivers experience and how you've learned to manage your stress during your caregiving experience, which is what you help family caregivers do through your own small business. That's a complementary niche. So that individual has an expertise in general stress management, and then you bring in that really specific expertise around managing stress within a caregiving situation. It's very different, I believe, when it's caregiving stress. And a collaboration could be that you both work on a series of workshops. I talked about Elizabeth Lombardo earlier today. She had written a book about the prescription for happiness or the happiness prescription. And I thought, you know what? We're looking for happiness during a caregiving experience. So that's how she became a regular podcast guest. A great place to find different niches is LinkedIn. And if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn yet, I'd love to connect with you there. All right, let's write another sentence, but it's a description of your niche. And as you write it, go ahead and share it in the chat room. I help small business owners who are family caregivers. I help male family caregivers who are caring for a spouse and adult children at the same time. I help those who are grieving during their caregiving experience. So Lauren is sharing, I help working professionals caring for their aging parents. Perfect. Beth CD is sharing, I help patients and care partners who are getting started with a complex or chronic illness. Perfect. What's interesting, oh yeah, and Vicki is sharing, I help overwhelmed caregivers. And Vicki, if you were with us yesterday, we talked about how often family caregivers share that they are overwhelmed without realizing that is.
I got chat message today.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Overwhelmed is a care challenge. I think we judge it as a shortcoming, like what's wrong with me that I'm overwhelmed? And it's so helpful if you can let family caregivers know the experience is overwhelming, which is why they're overwhelmed. It's not a shortcoming. It's not about them doing something wrong. It's about that experience being overwhelmed. That is a common phrase that family caregivers use, feeling overwhelmed. If you are thinking about using hashtags or keywords, burnout, stress, overwhelm are the common adjectives that family caregivers use to describe their experiences. I help family caregivers and help them connect to resources while providing spiritual care. Perfect, Ken. That's perfect. I help family caregivers manage the emotional ups and downs of middle and late end stages of Parkinson's disease. I'm going to say that again, Corey, because I didn't say it well. And you wrote it well. I help caregivers manage the emotional ups and downs of middle, late, and end stages of Parkinson's disease. One of the things I was going to actually add, and thank you for that, Corey, is that you can add in a niche based on a caregiving situation like we've been describing, managing multiple caries, but it also could be disease specific. I help a family caregiver who's caring for a family member with Parkinson's. Yeah, the hashtags, right. Overwhelm, burnout, stress. Overwhelm, burnout, stress. Okay, then what are you going to create? A book, a newsletter, a workshop, a workbook, a podcast, a series of blog posts, social media content, programs, one-on-one coaching, group coaching. Oh, Carly is sharing. I help sickle cell caregivers who are seeking support, education, and connection. Beautiful. Marla is sharing, I teach students to understand clients who have illnesses and the great importance of recognizing caregiving stress. All of this that you've been sharing can become something you can create. You could start with creating one thing, because I've given you a list. You might think, oh my gosh, the list is too long. Pick one thing. And if, for instance, you're thinking about a book, start with blog posts, which become your book. It's a really nice way to set a routine of writing, right? Every Friday morning, for instance, and you publish your blog post, and then you save them and turn them into your book. So Joella is sharing, I help only child caregivers like myself with feeling less lonely and assist them in navigating care resources. Perfect. So the niche is the situation, only child, plus the solution that you're going to help them with. Oh, Marilyn has a great one too. I help family caregivers learn to incorporate music and dance to lessen stress. Now, what's so interesting about what you've all shared is that it's family caregivers, but think about how diverse and individualized and personalized the solutions are. Awesome. And Carly is sharing, I will create a blog and a workbook. Perfect. Perfect. One of the reasons that I think if you're going to write a book, start writing blog posts is because it just helps you create the book. Sometimes you think, oh my gosh, I have to write a book. Where do I start? If you start with blog posts, that becomes content for your book. And if you wanted to, your blog posts could become a free workbook, which is a very short and small version of your book that you then turn into your book. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back in 5 minutes for our next 2 workshops.